If Magnum T.A. hadn't gotten hurt, how do you think it would have affected Barry Windham's run?
Well, he wouldn't have had one of them because Dusty called Barry to come back after Magnum's accident to initially he switched Nikita, which was the, stopgap measure, switched Nikita babyface. But then that's when he called Barry and asked him to come back. And Dusty always loved Barry Windham's work. And who wouldn't? Barry Windham at one point was, if he wasn't the best worker in the business, he was the best babyface worker in the business. And during that time, 84, 5, 6, 7, it was phenomenal when you go back and look that how can anybody be that good? And there's nobody else that's really been that good at a lot of things. So if Magnum had not got hurt, Barry wouldn't have had that run in 87. I think they did he main evented with Flair in Greensboro and did 13,000 people in one house show. And, the Crockett Cup, the main event with Flair in Baltimore and some of those other matches. So that, but, the thing I hate to say, but the thing is Magnum was more dependable than Barry because Barry, a lot of times he got in top spots and left for one reason or another. Whereas Magnum, was the kind of guy he would have been there, regardless of what. So it gave Barry an extra run, but it ended up, I think, Magnum's career would probably have prospered more, obviously, from not having the accident because he would have been around for a long time and he would have stayed with Dusty and Crockett until there was no choice to not to. And then I'm sure Vince would have been majorly interested in a guy that looked like that.
And I'm sure Magnum's heel turn would have been pretty big because it would have had to have happened.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. And then he could really cut those promos and tell people what he thought of them. That would have been I'm not saying Magnum hated people secretly, but I'm just saying he could have had that oomph to him with that face. And oh, my God. Yeah. So he would have been around for a long time.
With Windham, it's just such an interesting career because that period of time, let's say 83, 84, 85, 86 into 87. 88's great too, but I'm just looking at that period.
Yeah.
Dusty books him in Florida. He's the top young babyface. And Dusty has a relationship with Blackjack. It was a perfect fit. Dusty goes to Crockett as the booker, brings Barry up there with Rotunda, and then they jump to Vince right away. And obviously Dusty had plans for him. He was going to try to recreate some of that magic from Florida. And then eventually Dusty aligned himself with, Manny Fernandez and then Magnum. But Barry goes to the WWF, leaves there, walks out of there. And then he's just in Florida. And Florida, there's nothing happening. And the two big things that I always found interesting are, one, Dusty didn't bring him in earlier. It's almost like a punishment. And two, Watts didn't bring him in. Watts could have really used him in 1986. And someone told me, and I don't know how true this is, that part of the reason Watts would never consider Barry Windham was Watts didn't like Blackjack and didn't trust Blackjack.
Well, I don't know. I can agree with the concept. I don't know specifically if that's true, but I can agree with the concept that Watts would not have wanted, regardless of how good the performer was, would not have wanted somebody that he necessarily didn't trust to not walk out, not stick around, not be able to carry the push or whatever. And Blackjack had bailed on a couple places too. Blackjack bailed on Vince Sr. one time to go and take the push to Carolinas from George Scott. Yeah. So, who knows? It's just sometimes personal preferences. If you had an experience with a guy or know someone you trusted that had an experience with a guy where for whatever reason he wasn't there when you needed him, that carried over in those days.